Welcome back to the Mama Genius podcast. This is our last one. We have made it to the end. It's actually kind of sad, but we've had such wonderful speakers. Miss Jackie is our next speaker, who is not going to disappoint. She's the one who knows that motherhood was not given with the owner's manual. Sometimes it's just like, what the heck did I do? How am I going to do this? Well, she's going to help us figure that out. We're just going to dive right in because we need her message and we need to figure out how can we do this. Welcome to Mama Genius Hub podcast, where we support moms with big dreams from entrepreneurship to personal aspirations. I'm your host, Michelle Kaiser, and I'm here to help you unlock your potential in all areas of life. Join us as we explore strategies for thriving in motherhood while pursuing dreams. Subscribe now and embark on a journey to realize your fullest potential. Jackie is a mother of 5, grandmother, and retired Army Navy veteran dedicated to supporting and assisting others in their journeys and success and well-being. I am so excited to bring Jackie to the Mama Genius Festival.
Hi, Michelle.
Oh, it's excited to have you here.
Back at you.
How's the festival going?
Oh my gosh, the festival, right? I mean, it's been phenomenal. Meeting all of the other speakers, still meeting new speakers and their fabulous messages, and just being able to share with the audience. I mean, it's been great. Kudos to you, Michelle, for bringing this baby to life. You birthed this festival, and good for you.
Well, thank you so much. And I have to thank you in front of everyone because you were one of those people who supported me along the process. We've been in this together and just really sometimes getting out of that headspace of I can't do it. And Jackie's like, Michelle, you can do it. Really, you can. I'm like, no, I can't. And you're like, yes, you can. I'm like, okay. And here we are. I'm so glad that we get to end with you today because it's kind of started and ended together. And here we go. So we're going to dive right in. I want to know your why behind how do we do this?
When you first talked about the festival and I thought about the Mama Genius Festival, I thought, I'm sure that there's a lot of young mamas out there that have the question, how will I do this? I just wanted to share my experience of how will I do this and how I did it. This is hindsight. And a lot of times hindsight is 2020, right? And then when you hear about it and you're like, oh, she could do that, I can do this. And that's why.
I love that so much. I love that you want to give back. And I know when we were talking about this, you're just like, I have the experience and I want to bring it on because it's so true. Sometimes we just think that we can't. And I was talking about that in the last episode with Josie, our uniqueness and thinking like, well, someone's already doing it. I can't do it. But no one is doing it like you because there's only one of you. And now we're going to hear from Miss Jackie about her techniques and how we can do this. So I'm just going to turn it over to you.
How we can do this. Well, as I pointed out in the talk, a lot of what we do is label it as hard, and we allow that question to continue. How will I do this? That's what makes it much harder. Once we can really get a hold of, I can do this, and really be able to pull up our bootstraps and embrace ourself, believe in ourself that yes, I can do this, and then start looking for that next step and reaching out to those around us who can help us. That's how we can do these hard things. So yeah, that's what the talk is about. Reaching back to that story of the fish. I sat on the sofa for 2.5 hours with that question. How will I do this? Knowing the moment in time when I realized, okay, I'm going to be divorced with 5 children. I'm going to have to raise 5 children by myself. That was not something that I had anticipated doing. That was not in the plan. But sitting on the sofa with that question reeling and my hands covering my face with water dripping down my elbows, without retelling the story, that's what the talk is about. But then when that bird dropped that fish, and I'm believing it was an osprey or an eagle, and dropped the fish and I heard it, I'm in my living room. The bird drops the fish through the branches. I hear 3 boom, boom, booms. The fact that I heard the fish hit the branches, it's like, that's amazing in itself. And then I go out and the bird flies over. I look on the ground and the fish is on the ground. I'm like, wait, how did this bird is out feeding its family? But before it did, it stopped by to say, you can do this. And that whole mindset that changed when I saw the fish, the lift of that weight off of my shoulders, that whole new mindset of no longer how will I do this, but I will be able to do this. I will get help. Help will come when I least expect it. That was a clear message that help will come when you least expect it. You can do this. That day is forever etched in my mind. The more I tell the story, it reignites that flame that is too bright not to share. You can do this. I know it's hard. It looks insurmountable. It's a mountain too tough to climb. When you get that mindset change, then you just take it one step. As an eating coach, I say one fork, one bite, one meal, one day at a time. You can implement healthier eating habits to change the trajectory of your health going forward. Just like in feeding my kids when I didn't know how I would do it. And then later, when I was having high blood pressure issues and my dad had just died from cardiovascular disease, like far too many people are doing right now, the standard American diet is leading to the standard American diseases. That's why I share what I share. The food industry spends oodles of money telling us how sweet, salty, crunchy will make you happy. And it's true, that will make you happy. But it's also true that the standard American diet leads to the standard American diseases. We've been inundated by the industry and their marketing, billions of dollars worth of marketing thrown at us over and over again. But one bite, one fork, one day, one step at a time, you can change your mindset, the way you see food and the way you see the hard.
I love how you brought in the hard things to food, because you're right. With all the advertisements and everything they've done, they want to sell that stuff to us. So they've made it hard to say no, or to look at things differently. So I'd love to get some of that perspective change going on right now. What are some of the ideas that we can do to start that process of looking at food differently?
The one thing that I did, and I go on cruises a lot, and I just got off a 18-day adventure and a
Going to
cruise.
this festival to come back in time.
Right, during the festival. That's why it's 3 parts, 3 videos, because I lost connection. But getting that new mindset, the first thing you want to do is understand, what does food do when I eat it? So for so long, we just eat unconsciously. Oh, what are we having? Oh, what do you want? Oh, I think pizza tonight. But we don't really look and say, what will that do when I eat it? What is that food going to do when I eat it? Our body's renewing its cells every day. It takes 35 days for our skin cells to replace themselves. The cells replace themselves constantly. That's why your dry skin, when it comes off, that's the old cells going away and the new cells are popping up. Our whole body is made up of cells, and the various days it takes to recreate those different organs and parts of our body are different. But where they get that is from the food that we eat. If we're putting in garbage, which the food industry is making a lot of it so that they can make a lot of money, it will sit on the shelf and not expire. That's the goal there. We don't want it to expire. But our goal as consumers and as caretakers needs to be, what will that food do to my body when I eat it? And if you really look at it and really want to know, what will this do? How can I improve my health going forward with what I eat? Because food is medicine. It comes with good side effects and it comes with bad side effects. And as you get older, those bad side effects start showing up more. If you look at the top, every 34 seconds, someone's dying from cardiovascular disease. And diabetes, it's because of what we're eating and what our body does when we eat it. So understanding, what is that going to do when I eat it? When you really answer that question and keep it in front of your fork, you'll make different choices. And that comes through time. Experts say anywhere from 21 to 248 days to change a habit. When it comes to eating habits, something we do every day, multiple times a day, experts agree that 66 days is about what it takes to change those habits.
Love that. Attention mompreneurs. Do you feel like you're constantly juggling responsibilities without a moment to yourself? It's time to pause and reflect with our Mama Genius quiz. Tailored for busy mamas like you, this quiz will help you identify what's blocking your path and inspire you to harness your unique strengths, transform how you manage life and business, find your rhythm, and ignite your joy. Visit mamageniushub.com today to discover your Mama Genius. I love that, Jackie, how we were just talking about food as medicine. And I want to dive a little bit more into that 66 days because I actually hadn't heard that. And I know it takes 21 days to change a habit, but that makes sense with 66 days to actually change food habits because it's so ingrained in us and something we do all the time. So now we have that number in mind. Where should we start with making some of those changes to make them more lasting?
Well, what I do is I have a intentional eating hub. I have a Facebook group, and inside the Facebook group, we journal about doing just that. And we don't just write it, but we draw it. Because when you're changing habits, it takes emotion and repetition to really implement those changes. So not only do you want to say, okay, you can't eat this and you can't eat that. No, there's none of that. People say to me all the time, you can't eat that because of that diet you're on. And I'll say, no, I'm not on a diet. I eat whatever I want. But because of how I've rewired my brain and how I look at food and how I see food, I eat whatever I want. And there's a lot of stuff I don't want anything to do with because I know what it's going to do to my body. So taking it one day at a time and implementing a journaling event really helps. It's called the eating checklist, and that's actually day one. You want to write down whatever you're eating, what time you're eating it, and how much water you're drinking. And just be real. Just put down what you're eating, because whenever you go somewhere in the GPS, what do you have to put first? Where you are, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you say where you want to go. And then the GPS says, oh, okay, you're here and you want to go there. So you need to do blah, 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 blah. Well, this eating checklist is putting in where you are right here. And no judging. It doesn't matter if you start on day one and on day two, you think, oh, that was terrible. You just get up and keep going. You don't allow that to be the excuse to say, oh, I can't do this. Yes, you can. You just have to keep working on emotion and repetition toward what it is that you want.
I love you removing the judgment out of it because we get so fearful when it comes to food and money. I think we judge so much in ourselves, like this is the shoulds. And even with motherhood, we're like, we should do these things for our kids. But when we remove that judgment and just see what is, where do I want to go and what can I do to get there?
Right.
I love that so much. So if we take down the food intake of what we're doing the first few days, where do we go with the journaling then to help us shift?
There's a number of things, but mainly what we want to do is really begin to, so like I said, I go on cruises a lot. Now, I just got off this cruise, and the one thing I always see is about day 3, 4, or 5, you'll see people laying around on the lounges, and you just see in their face, they feel horrible. They feel horrible. And it's mostly related to what they eat, right? So learning to feel great after you eat is also one of those benefit side effects from the food is medicine mindset. Remembering that everything you eat, your body has to deal with. You're either going to send your body into overdrive because it's got to do some repairing because what it just took in is causing bad reactions. And when you're younger, your body can handle that more. But as you get older, it starts screaming more, like heartburn or indigestion. That's your body saying, this is not working. Learning to listen to your body when you eat and being more mindful that you can send your body signals with everything you eat. And when you send it a signal that says, I want you to go into overdrive and have to repair what I'm getting ready to eat. That's what it's going to do.
Yes. I love that. It's the analogy of what it does. It shows us what's actually going through the body. Your question about how do I want to feel and what is this food actually going to do to my body? We don't think about that. We just say that tastes good. That's what I want right now. But it's not, you're right. It really is that mindset shift, that change into, okay, well, now that I just took this bite, what's going to happen after that? We completely ignore that part.
We
Then later on,
definitely,
like that night,
that's what I
why
call
do I feel this way?
unconsciously. We're eating unconsciously. There's so many people just eating unconsciously with no regard for what they're dumping in their body. The body has to deal with that. And then later, when we're not feeling well and we go to the doctor and the doctor says, you really need to improve your diet, you walk out and think, well, what does that mean? There's so much mixed messages. There's some people telling you you can eat donuts and cookies and pasta and pizza and still have a six pack or just take a pill. But if you really want to be intentional with your health, learn to adopt eating habits that are intentional toward that good health down the road. And sugar is a sneaky little booger. When you let sugar in, that's why the food industry has so many different names for sugar. You can Google different names for sugar. I had 150 names within 15 seconds for sugar. Why did they rename sugar? Because people are getting smart and looking for sugar in the products. Sugar dulls the natural reaction of our body to say, hey, I'm full, stop eating. It dulls that. So we just keep eating. We tend to overeat. And sugar calls to sugar. And sugar will dull our receptors that give us that dopamine. When that gets dulled and we want that happy feeling, our body will say, give me more sugar. Now these sugar substitutes, they may not be real sugar, but they do the same thing. They make you crave more sugar. The food industry puts a lot of sugar in processed foods because it makes us come back for more.
Okay, I'm kind of stumped right now because there's so much that we have to, I think it's overwhelming. And I love that your topic is how do I do this? I want to come back to that idea as a mom listening, going like, my kid won't eat anything. What do I do? They only want their goldfish. What do we do to help bring that more into with the kids as well?
Yeah, there were studies done that showed the amount of sugar and what it does, right? But sugar's not the enemy. You can have sugar. It doesn't mean you go into sugar jail, which is what a lot of times I hear from my clients.
Sugar jail.
Are you going to put me in sugar jail? No, there's no sugar jail. But it's kind of like a little detox phase. And it's for different people. But the rewards on the other end are so worth it. And it's less than 2, 3, 4 days it can take. But after you've been doing it consistently, it's like your taste buds come alive because sugar hasn't dulled them. It hasn't masked the flavor. When you're teaching children, you want to make it fun. Like with my grandchildren, strawberries, berries, those kind of things can be really fun. But there's also treats that you can make. Like the one chocolate that I love now, which who knew? A 70% cacao chocolate bar would be so good and so sweet. It's so sweet to me because my taste buds are not masked with regular sugar. If you go to Starbucks in the morning and you get one of those foo-foo coffees like a lot of our teenagers are doing, that's enough sugar for 3 days. Sugar is the fastest form of energy that our body burns. Once our body burns enough energy for the day, the rest goes into storage because our body is trying to preserve us. If we get all our sugar in our coffee drink, the rest of what we eat that day, all that energy is going to be stored. You know what stored energy is in the body? It's
Fat.
fat cells. It's fat cells, right? In the same way we store energy, we can also burn energy. That's the benefit. Once you know the signals to send, you can tap into that stored energy and get this burst of energy. So there's rewards to this. Doing it ourselves and being an example in front of our children and our grandchildren, and then teaching them a little at a time. Just like for us, it's overwhelming. You want me to change my eating habits? Are you kidding me? I've been eating for 61 years and you want me to do what? But you can do it. And the rewards that come with it are just so worth it. One day, one fork at a time, and being creative. When it comes to kids, if we set that example, it's challenging in the marketplace because the food industry has put a lot of sugar in formula and sugarized cereals. The packaging looks really healthy, but if you look at the ingredients, there's zero nutritional value. If you do a little other research, there's so much out there now. Even when I was on the plane, there was a lady talking. She went from finance to nutritionist because of the benefits of eating healthy as you get older. And there's so many benefits. Yes, it seems hard, but I promise you, once you start and you put your location in and where you want to go and keep focused, it's doable with a little guidance. Some need more than others.
Jackie, how it really is about the modeling and seeing what our kids are capable of. But we're going to go into our 5 questions to get to know you a little bit better. So number 1, Miss Jackie, what is your favorite podcast, book, resources just helped you either feel more inspired, run your business better, anything you would like to share?
My favorite, The Habits of Health book by Dr. Anderson. I studied that for the first 6 months of my transition. I did many videos on it because it was just so eye-opening. Learning how the body responds when we eat was just fascinating to me. That's what makes me really look at food differently. I know not everybody can read a 550-page book for 6 months, so that's why I decided to talk about it. I said, I got to get the word out because people don't know.
What are some of the things you and your family do for fun to bring joy into your family?
I love putting puzzles together.
I love that.
Oh yeah, puzzles. That's where I first learned about how you can get that back part of your brain to help you. That's what I'm working on, the puzzle, and it's been like 2 hours. And then I get up and I look from a different angle and I know that piece. You reach over and you bam, pop it down. You look from a different angle. Oh, I know that piece. Bam, pop it down. About the 3rd time I did that, I said, wait, my brain is helping me. Once I do this for like 2 or 3, my brain just starts saying, well, you're looking at that piece, but you were looking for this one a little while ago and it's right there. Remember, it goes right there. So that's when I started doing the neurographic art to draw it out and started working on getting ready for this festival, doing my talks, doing my workshops, or just draw it out. Instead of stress about it, I'd draw it out and get my whole brain helping me. And that's the emotion in repetition.
I love it so much.
Yeah. What I use a lot, like daily.
My kids are bringing into puzzling too. We've been doing it a little bit more too. It is a good way to really train the brain, but also just your idea. I love how you took what you were doing as a game and then applied it to your business. I love that because I think the more we play with games with kids, you start to see that perspective change in them. And it doesn't have to always be, oh, you have to do this worksheet or whatever, but the games really bring that out.
Right.
Which leads us to number 3. I'm on a mission to bring the busyness mask out into play because moms, I'm guilty of it too, will ask the question, how are you doing? You get, I'm fine, or I'm busy doing blah, blah, blah. There's no connection and we're hiding behind doing all these things. So I just like to throw out the speaker and say, what can we do to either change the question, change the answer, or change our ideas of busyness to help us get into a different mindset?
I hear a lot that multitasking used to be, if you could multitask, that was a sign of, really, really, you were really an effective person. But multitasking is not as effective as it was overglorified. If we can just focus on what we're working on for 5, 10, 15 minutes, rather than trying to do 3 things in that 1 minute, you're going to get so much more out of that. An example is when I was raising my 5 children as a single mom, I would, like, if they were coming home, mom, and they would start to tell me a story and I'm still doing over here or talking to another one. I would say, just a minute, honey, hold on. I'd look at them and say, okay, I'm listening. I'm here, and it's kind of like that. That's where we really have to be intentional with it, right?
I do the same thing with my kids too. Like, they're like, they want something right then. I'm like, can you give me a minute so I can give you my full undivided attention? I just need to finish what I'm doing. And then they get used to it because they know you can actually give them your full undivided attention instead of that multitasking half like, wait, what did they just say? And what did I disagree to?
Right.
Well, that kind of leaves number 4 for us is I want to redefine success in terms of what people think of success rather than what society may tell us. What is your definition of success and how do you celebrate it?
My definition of success is getting through a podcast without my battery dying. On the ship, I got cut off because of the signal, but here it would be all my fault. So we're going to reposition this and plug that in. My definition of success is getting plugged in when you need it if you're in the middle of a podcast. And it varies, right? If it's pre-recorded, you can edit that part out. But if it's live, you definitely can't. So another version of success for me would be it's individual, right? Some may say you're not going to please everybody. If you are pleasing everybody, then you're probably not very happy and you're what might be referred to as a pleaser. So my definition of success for myself is when I set out to do what I want to do, give it my best, and reward myself by acknowledging that I gave it my best and I did a good job.
Acknowledging it. Even during the festival, you're like, Michelle, has it sunk in yet? I'm like, no, I'm too much doing. You're like, stop and pause and just celebrate what it already is. I think we need those reminders from each other as well. Sometimes we do forget, and it helps from that outside perspective say, slow down, acknowledge, celebrate. So I'm celebrating with you that you get to be the last podcast on this. I think it's just so fitting that you wrap up the whole festival. We're going to end with number 5, which is how do we inspire that genius in our kids? How do we pass that out and really hone in on that?
Kids are so different. They're individual people, and some may have similarities, but they're all just little people that are constantly watching us. They do things that we do that maybe we really didn't mean to want them to do because we're not perfect. Allowing them to know it's okay to be themselves. And you're going to be different. Like your son or daughter said this morning, if I like steak, but my friend says that she doesn't like steak, that doesn't mean that I have to not like steak anymore. We can still be friends. She's free to be herself, and the friend is free to be themselves. So just that.
Well, I love that. And actually, I love that you brought that up because that came from the kids' circle. And I really feel like when you set up those conversations and open them up, you really have that freedom to express who you are and to really define it. Because I was just in awe of listening to her going, you go, girl.
I know. I was too. I was like, that's so good to know at that age. Good for her. And clearly you've inspired her.
I was like, you go, girl. That's a perfect segue to end this podcast. But I want everyone to know how they can get a hold of you if you have a free gift and your final takeaway for everyone.
Yeah, I think my free gift will be in the comments below. And that's the eating checklist. To adopt healthier eating habits, you have to know where you are. And just be real. Just fill out the questions. It's a 1-pager. And the first question is, do you believe that you can? And that's very important. I have a Facebook group called Intentional Eating Hub. And I will put that link in the comments as well. Join in and we'll draw it out together.
And what are your parting words for our audience?
Parting words will be, it was so nice to be here with you. And thank you for sharing your life with me.
Aw, I did not expect that, but thank you. And I'm so glad that we got to do this together. But I'm going to throw you backstage now while I give my takeaways from what we just went over. If I can find my mouse. Wasn't Jackie amazing? She really tells us about what it's like to do things that we weren't expecting. We were thrown into things as moms. There's no owner manuals, none of this. Like, how do I do this? Well, let's go through some of these tips of how to do it. Number 1, see it as it is and label it. We can say things are hard. When we label it, we can say, I can do this. Embrace ourselves and believe in yourself as you start reaching out to others. The help will start coming when you start acknowledging and labeling it. And knowing that it may be hard, what's next? What can I do? That leads us into number 2, which is really that mindset. I will be able to do this. Help will come one step at a time. I don't have to look all the way down here. Just start looking at where am I starting? Just like she's saying, one bite. This is where I start, which then leads us into number 3, one fork, one bite, one meal at a time. The way she phrased it made me really think the standard American diet leads to the standard American disease. Think about that. What is going inside your body? You need to start answering that question and really looking at what is this food going to do when it's inside my body? And it's really made me think today. Number 4, okay, I keep going into the next phrase because number 4 is understanding what food does when I eat it. What will it do when I eat it? Food can be medicine, but at the same time, it can lead to the next American disease. I love how she reminded us about habits. Habits in general take anywhere from 221 to 248 days to make a change, but the average for food changes, because food is something we do daily, is 66 days to really make some true changes in your diet. It sounds like a lot, but, and again, it's only a little over 2 months to actually make some truly great changes, which leads us into number 5 of how to do that. One of the things she recommends is journaling and drawing, so we can really get into that brain. Even when she's talking about doing the puzzling and how you look at things differently, their brain's helping us. So don't we want to put our brain to work to help us make those changes? We got to do the work of actually making the journals, looking at what we're eating, getting her free guide and taking that log of what you're eating, and learning to feel great after you eat. I loved how she described on the cruise ship how people were just like, oh, after a few days of just eating and eating. Well, you can choose to feel like that, or you can choose to feel vibrant and energetic from the things that you're doing. So again, the choice is yours, and bringing in those little decisions to your kids, inspiring them to be the next ones to do it, making these choices and being that role model. You don't have to do it alone. I got my little Liam there who is always talking about the cooking and the healthy habits too. And I can't wait to see you on the next Mama Genius Hub podcast. It's a wrap. It's been such a pleasure to have these wonderful women on today. But this was the last vessel of May of 2024. Thank you for joining us in today's episode of the Mama Genius Hub podcast. If you found value in our conversation, please share this episode with another mama who might benefit. Sharing helps us build a supportive community and reach out to more mamas like you. After all, it's more fun when we do motherhood together. Until next time, stay motivated and continue to pursue your dreams as you shine in your genius.